And I would now like to invite Ms. Audrey Kitagawa to deliver the keynote address. She's Chair-elect of the Parliament of the World's Religions and Trustee, Chair of the Programmatic Areas Committee and the United Nations Task Force of the Parliament.
Good morning, everyone, Your Excellencies and honored guests. I wish to express my special thanks to Dr. Saranga Silva for this very wonderful invitation to give this keynote address this morning. I have sat through many wonderful panels, and I hear Sri Lanka in its time of peace now, looking at ways to develop its country through tourism. So the global values chain for sustainable tourism development through innovation and inclusivity. How I love the words innovation and inclusivity, because man is a pioneer in his own way, always searching for new frontiers on how we can move through the many challenges that we face with innovative ideas. And the inclusivity, because we now live in a highly connected, interconnected world where no one really lives in isolation. So our informational technologies and our market fundamentalism has opened markets and peoples and cultures in unprecedented ways. We now have 7.3 billion people in the world, and by 2050, we can expect approximately 9 billion people. Necessarily, we are faced with many complexities, and as the globalized world provides market resources to many different parts of the world that used to be inaccessible, and many things are the same. People search for their identity that will make them special, make them count. And of course, within our human DNA is our rich history and culture with our religious communities. And I have been asked to talk about religious tourism in the world. Now, religions have often been blamed for creating the most heinous human rights crimes, as well as being the cause of violence in the world. In the long march of history, it is our duty and our opportunity here, now, and for the future to create a new paradigm that will be copacetic with our ways of peace. As Dr. Silva indicated, I am the chair-elect of the Parliament of the World's Religions. It is one of the world's largest conveners of communities of faith and one of the oldest interfaith communities that it is attributed started the global interfaith movement. 90% of the world's peoples are believers. Therefore, the huge resource that exists within the realm of communities of faith have long been recognized as an untapped and important potential. The United Nations has recognized, primarily through its agency of UNICEF, its children's agency, that if you want to be able to immunize children, if you want to have programs in the field and have modicums of success for the implementation of programs, you work with the leaders, the community leaders of faith. So the communities of faith become important vectors for the programs that we want to unfold. And I heard that in the constitution of Sri Lanka is Buddhism. So Buddhism is recognized in Sri Lanka and in many Southeast Asian countries. So when I talk about the opportunity for religious communities to create the paradigm of peace, I want to share about the work of the Parliament of the World's Religions for just those purposes. The mission of the Parliament is to cultivate harmony among the world's religious and spiritual communities and foster their engagement with the world and its guiding institutions in order to achieve a just, peaceful, and sustainable world. How wonderful to lift up communities of faith and to see them as important partners in development to create harmony, peace, and sustainability for the peoples of the world. So religious and spiritual communities living in harmony are very, very important so that we can all experience a better world from the riches of their long history of wisdom and compassion. So ultimately, our religions provide us with our grounding in values. And one of the important projects of the Council of the Parliament of the World's Religions is the global ethic. As we become globalized more and more, and we develop these market technologies, and we look deeply within ourselves how to maximize these market opportunities, we must never forget that what undergirds the human being is values and the essence of what it means to be human. So the global ethic is designed to understand that human beings should be treated humanely, that the golden rule of reciprocity is a rule that is inherent in all of the great sacred scriptures, that we should never do unto another what we would not want done unto us. So the articulation of these deep values must always undergird not only the conduct in our daily lives, but as we come together and think through how we are progressing in the world, not only in technology and the frontiers of space and the huge potential that exists with our climate change and the opening of areas that were so covered with permafrost that were before unexplorable. The potential within this one planet is very large. However, we must remember that as custodians of this sacred earth, our lives also are sacred, and we must always treat each other with a commitment to a just and peaceful world. At this time, I want to share that the work of the Parliament is undergirded by the major actions that confront us today, whether it's climate change, whether it's countering hate speech, war, and violence, whether it's addressing income inequality, and whether it's addressing the rights and dignity of women. All these issues are very important because in the globalized world, our sense of identity also becomes important. But we must never forget that we are identified as human beings. And as human beings, we each, on the long sacred journey that we travel, must reach deep into ourselves to always have the ceaseless, fearless self-examination to see how we can become increasingly better people so that we may relate to each other in this increasingly interconnected world with harmony, peace, respect, and always upholding the dignity of each person. At this time, I wanted to share how the Parliament of the World's Religions, as the world's largest conveners, comes into communities, and it is an entirely inclusive house, and gives an international platform to voices from around the world to share with others their religious heritage, their songs and dances, their films, and a whole panoply of what it is to be part of beautiful cultures. And it is in the performing arts, in the universal language of music, where we can come immediately into that state of transcendence that takes us out of all polarization into a deep appreciation to the artistry and the beauty of the human soul that ever seeks to express itself and to share itself with others. And that is a statement of love. At this time, I'd like to show this video of the Parliament's upcoming event. We are convening in November 1 through 7 in Toronto, Canada. We do select international cities, and whenever we have a presence of our on the ground that communities face, where we can understand that in this interconnected world, we must learn how to work together. Because our global challenges are so huge, there is no one religion, no one government, no one corporation that can tackle and address these global challenges alone. We must learn the modalities of working together through cooperative action, and to understand that it is through cooperation that we will have the enhancement of our ability to maintain peace, justice, and prosperity for all. So if we could play the video, please.
The reason I'm excited about the 2018 Parliament is because it provides me an opportunity to be able to engage and learn from people of faith and conscience from all across the world, so we can then go back and make our own communities better.
I'm excited because I've never seen a large organized congregation between so many different faiths and people of different nationalities come together and execute something that's going to be educational, engaging, and inspiring.
For years, I've always heard about this massive international gathering called the Parliament, where people come together from different faith and spiritual and philosophical backgrounds and help to vision and create action plans for a better world. And so now it's coming to my city, to our front step, and I couldn't be more excited to join up in that.
I'm excited about the Parliament of World Religions because we live in a world where religion is very much represented as a problem, as a source of violence, and so I'm excited to see people from all different religions and spiritual traditions coming together to talk about how religion can be a solution to some of the most serious problems that we're facing in our world today.
We need each other. We need to learn from each other and support each other. And this Parliament is giving us an opportunity to come together and do that. So we're excited.
I'm excited about the 2018 Parliament of the World's Religions because I have been to 2 previous parliaments and they were life-changing.
To work towards this model, this paradigm of cooperating together to bring about a more peaceful, harmonious, loving world. That is what the Parliament has offered, and this new paradigm is magnified on this international stage many, many times over, and it is really a point of intense celebration. So the Parliament of the World's Religions convenes every 1 to 3 years. It used to be once every 5 years, but in its history, it convened once every 100 years. It started in 1893 in Chicago, Illinois, in the US. 100 years later, in 1993, we did another convening. When people understood that this is a wonderful opportunity for communities of faith to come together and to share their concerns, their proposed solutions, and learn the ways of how we can work together, we get to understand the importance that religious communities play in being important partners in the ways of peace. After the 1993 convening of the Parliament, 100 years from its initial launch, people understood the importance of maintaining these kinds of convenings because it spoke to the hunger of people to want to connect with other faiths, learn about each other, and how to move to that state to bring together faith leaders from all over the world to deepen our understanding of each other, to work on developing projects of reconciliation, that we may ultimately come to understand our duty and our responsibility to move through life as points of hope and inspiration to all those whose lives we touch. And we can do no other because the essence of life itself is sacred. And in the innermost chamber of our hearts, we do understand and recognize that. And at all times, the dignity of life is to remember that life is sacred and we must always hold it sacrosanct. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share with you this morning.